You know what I've done? I've mostly been training church planters. People are starting new church experiences all over the world. And I tell them now, there's nothing that you could do that would make it easier to gospel a city than to actually do what the city needs done. So instead of just planting a church, plant a business.
Welcome to the Everyday Disciple Podcast, where you'll learn how to live with greater intentionality and an integrated faith that naturally fits into every area of life. In other words, discipleship as a lifestyle. This is the stuff your parents, pastors, and seminary professors probably forgot to tell you. And now, here's your host, Caesar Kalinowski.
Keith, my brother, we're back.
We are back.
We are back together, and it has seriously become summer. Are your kids out of school yet?
Yep, just finished. Now Kathleen gets to wrangle. Now, we homeschool, so we get to set our own schedule. But, yep, they're officially done for the year. And
right now, everybody's going, oh, homeschoolers.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
So it's not like she really gets a break.
Does it change much for her?
No.
Doesn't really change. It's not like she's like, okay, I love summer or I hate summer. But it's got to be easier because she's not having to like, all right, homework, guys. Come on.
There's not the chasing, or it's not the balancing act.
She's not chasing 11 kids every day.
Yeah, exactly.
to get their homework.
And she also, it's beautiful weather. Kids are outside all day. I mean, they'll play. Our kids are outside all day long.
I can't tell anymore because, you live one spot, but like here where we live, kids seem to have gotten out of school different depending which school they go to.
Yep.
Age, private school, not. If they're homeschool, part of a network. So sometimes they go off. But all of a sudden, I just see a lot more kids around the last week and
fun,
a half.
Right?
Yeah.
Neighborhood gets a little bit louder.
I'm digging it, though, because we kind of have an open yard policy here. Yep. And I don't know, we seem to have all boys in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And so, they'll knock a ball in the yard or something, freak out. Sorry, sir. I'm like, nope, that's what a yard's for. Play in the yard. I don't care. Try not to break a window. If you do, we'll get it fixed. Don't cut yourself. Just come and get me. It's all good. That's and fun. They have actually, I've had stuff broken, and they come, so sorry. And I'm like, you're safe. You're cool. No one's bleeding. No. All right, great. Well, we'll fix it. I'm like, well, let's get it taped up. So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I think I'm known as the guy who's cool about it. And some of the parents are like, it's so cool you let the boys play in the yard. Because when our yards connect together, it's like a football field length, right?
Yeah, it's massive.
No fencing. So,
Hey, so we got a guy on today that shares my initials, double H's.
Double H's. So right at the top of the show, you heard a little bit of Hugh Halter, right? My good buddy.
Yep.
Just kind of throwing hard there. And here's what's going to happen in this show today. So me and Hugh Halter, some of you don't know who he is, but he's a really good friend of mine. He's an author and speaker, and actually like a modern day apostle.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like capital A in the lineage of St. Peter. I'm just saying like he's got that gifting.
Sure.
When you look in Ephesians 4, he's an apostle, much like myself, but he's also an evangelist. Like his heart for people and people far from dad it's amazing, right? And so he's had a lot of changes in his life lately, some of which I knew of because we're buddies, but some of which I've not really gotten the latest update. So what you're going to hear today is a little bit different because I wanted to catch up with you.
Sure.
And I knew it'd be like funny, and I knew it'd be like, what are you doing? How's God doing?
Yeah.
But I thought, I want to record it. And I asked him if I could, just so we could share it. And it really is. It's like this, if you want to know what's an apostle look like today? He's not wearing sandals usually, whatever,
exactly.
Roaming around. He's got a truck, and motorcycles and stuff. But what does it look like when someone shows up in a new town? Why? Because God sent him, not here, but there. And then what happens? And then, like, is God showing up, or is it all hard work? Or so it's an amazing story.
Cool.
Of what he's up to in Alton, Illinois. I don't want to say a whole lot more, but I just want to let people know. So he's the author of The Tangible Kingdom.
Yep.
And him and Matt Smay, another great guy, they wrote The Tangible Kingdom, and then The Tangible Kingdom Primer, which came out. It's the 8-week thing, right? Many of you have used that. I had the privilege of editing that. We started building a relationship that way, and then we did a Journeyman together, where we would get guys together on his ranch in Colorado, there in Denver area, and just be super manly. And he had the best saloon, like / pub you've ever seen.
So cool.
Some of our listeners have seen pictures, I know. Anyway, so he and I are very close, and we laugh a lot. And I don't know anybody who loves people and Jesus more, seriously. That's who he's written other books, like so many other. I mean,
Bivo was a great one, and was an amazing book.
And he also wrote with Smay. He wrote Brimstone, which is like God's like a super pissed off God just in heaven waiting to bust everybody. No, that's not his heart. It's great.
Huh.
So anyway, let's go ahead and throw to the interview.
Okay.
You're going to love it. And then we'll come back at the end like we normally do.
Big three it up.
Kind of give a little of our thoughts. And then I'm going to give you my big 3 takeaways. Cool?
Awesome. Cool.
All right.
Let's listen.
So Hugh Halter, way too long. that we have spoken. Actually, not so long since we spoke, but way too long since we've done some stuff together. What's up with that?
Caesar, that beautiful ranch we had where we would hang out and encourage pastors together, ride motorcycles, all that stuff. I guess those days are behind us, but it was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't want it to be behind us. I still want to ride motorcycles and, drink the occasional Jameson and encourage pastors together.
Yeah, well, if you would quit crashing on your motorcycles, that would help.
That's way behind me. It's like it never happened. It's like that commercial, like it never happened. Hey, so how long, when we were doing a lot of that stuff, you were still in Denver. How long have you been in Alton, Illinois now? And why did you originally move there? Like, what was the goal? Like, we're moving to Alton from beautiful Denver and the ranch and all that because of why? How long you been there and why'd you go there originally?
Well, I can make lots of jokes about it, but bottom line was that, our son had really severe epilepsy most of his life. So, 7 years ago, we find this assisted living center for him out in Alton. And that's what actually made us buy the ranch. It was the first time Cheryl and I had just been able to live our own lives without caring for his sort of hourly needs with the seizure disorder and all that. So when he finally came out here, we were like, hey, let's live a little. And we got that ranch because Cheryl always wanted to have horses. And so I think we were probably 2 years into just loving life on this ranch. And
in Denver, you mean?
Yeah, in Denver. And and then, we go visit Ryan about 4 times a year. And every time we'd fly into, you fly into St. Louis, you drive through, Ferguson area, and you go over a bridge and you dump down into this little river town, about 50,000 people total. But it was, beautiful town, but it was just bombed out. There was nothing going on. Couldn't find a cup of coffee in the entire downtown. No breakfast joint.
That's not good news.
No, it's terrible.
That's not good.
And, a lot of buildings boarded up. Then we start to sniff around. We start to hear the story of how this town, like many towns, lost a lot of their industry back in the 60s and 70s. And so it lost about half its population. So you can imagine, just trying to keep a business alive was difficult. So we finally, make a long story short, we were just having dinner at a little Italian joint one night and talking to a waitress that was sharing about her drug issues. And walking out, Cheryl just goes, hey, why don't we sell the ranch and move here, see if we can help out.
Wow.
And that was literally what started the story. Started a big fight between Cheryl and I, too, for about 2 weeks because I was actually kind of loving the ranch.
I know. You didn't even complain. You didn't even complain about getting up at like the crack of dawn every day, freezing cold and mucking out piles of poo and you were amazing about it. It was like you were in your element there.
I had that killer Irish bar in the middle of this, the old saloon.
The saloon. Oh my God.
Fill that thing with guys that just loved. I mean, it was just a great place to live and do life in ministry. So no reason to leave there for sure.
How long ago did you move to Alton then?
3 years.
Okay. And did you think like, well, we're just going to get on the ground and see what God shows us? Or did you have some plans like, okay, let's like start a business and hire a bunch of broke people, or let's open up a pub, or let's finally open a coffee shop? Or what did you think? Like, hey, we're going to go, like, it's 3 years is enough time to go, hey, it wasn't what we thought. It's this now.
No, I would say it was the first. We showed up. We had no idea. I had planted churches in the past, but I did not feel like God was going to have us rewind that story. I did about 3 months in, I tried to buy a little tiny broken down, boarded up gas station to try to make my own coffee shop. I thought, screw it. If nobody's going to buy coffee, at least I will have coffee for me. So that deal fell through. And so I sort of made a commitment to the Lord and to Cheryl. I would not try to, make it happen or pursue things too fast. And then it was just a little bit after that, I had a very fateful car drive with a gentleman named John that I didn't really know that well at all. And it changed our entire history and story of what's going on with us now.
Wow, is that a setup? Let's go to a commercial. We don't even have commercials. Okay, so what changed? What happened on that fateful drive?
Well, I was with a guy that started a very successful law firm, and he's from this area. And when the rest of the town was dying, he was building this pretty amazing business. And so he had bought in some buildings, apparently. I didn't know this, but he just said, "Hey, let's take a drive in my car. I want to show you some buildings I own." And he pulled up in front of this old federal post office. And you probably have one in your town. Most towns have the old, they're huge pillars. They say United States
Yeah.
Post Office on the front. They're
Super elaborate. You're like, wow, is this how they used to look?
yeah, seriously. And so he pulls up in front of that and goes, "Yeah, what do you think about that?" And I said, "Oh, it's big. It's nice." And and we just started to talk, and he was like, "I think I want to give this to you. I think you'll know what to do to help this town."
Wow.
And I said no, because I still wanted to move back to Denver at that point of the stories. But
You're still hoping, right? Okay, we gave it a shot.
yeah, 4 months. But he gave me the key, said, "Hey, just, keep the key for a month or two. If you really don't want the building, then give it back to me, and we'll just move on." And so I got, the family, and I walked through, because it wasn't just Cheryl and I. My two adult daughters and their one husband and one fiance, they all decided to move with us. So it was kind of a big
Right.
family mission venture.
No kidding.
And
I know. I love it.
we just started to talk about it, and we went, "Oh, we know exactly what to do." And so the vision really became to create the living room for our city, a place where people hang all day long, do their business there, do their meetings, meet people. 40% of our town is African American. They don't traditionally hang in the downtown sector at all. They were essentially redlined out of the downtown business community years ago. So we thought, what if we could create a place that would bring people together in this town? And so
Yeah, amazing.
that's what we did.
Now, I can super relate in two ways. I just got to interject here. One was years ago, Tina and I bought an old Masonic temple. Like that, it kind of sounds like when you pulled up and you saw this place and you went through it, you're like, it stinks. It's weird. Your stomach kind of drops because you realize there's a part of your heart going, I could maybe do this. And you're like, don't do it. So it's like, and that's how we felt. We were like, oh, and it was too good to be true. We got it for like pennies, and it was like, but we did it. And it was like, we always called it the blessing and the curse. It was so big and so heavy, but it was such a blessing to so many people, and including us, and getting to do ministry out of there and all. And then the second thing I could relate to is sort of having a place that's like everybody's living room, or like in our case with the Chakra Bra, with the restaurant, it's everybody's dining room, because everybody just eats there. And we ran that place for 8 years as sort of the place. And it still is. Now we've sold it, and we sold it to a guy who's kind of come from a restaurant family. So he still gets it. And it's slightly different, but he still maintains it. It's busy as heck, and everybody loves it. We still eat there all the time. It's great. But what a lot of work, though, brother, that from this point of your story ahead. And I remember when you were starting, you told me, hey, this guy gave me a post office in the Mississippi. And I'm like, what? And you're like, yeah, so I'm out trying to figure out how to get the money to rehab it. And I'm like, what do you need? And it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm thinking like maybe I could send you, $1,000 to help out or something. It's like, what?
I figured, in my head, I needed $500,000. All the windows were boarded up. It had not been in operation for 60 years. So I figured new plumbing, new electrical, new windows, new everything. So, but it had amazing bones. It's all cinder block, in fact, the fire marshal did not even ask me to put sprinklers in, because he goes, "There's nothing to burn here. Everything is cement."
If nothing can burn, don't need sprinkler.
So anyway, when we started to raise money, I remember one gentleman from Iowa that said, "When you guys figure out what God wants you to do there, we want to help out." So I called him and said, "Hey, Al, I got a key to a building." And he goes, "Take it." And I was like, "Well, Al, it's going to cost a lot." And, and again, I'm still trying to get back to Denver. So I'm trying to talk him out of giving me money. So I'm like, Al, I know you guys give to a lot of, great things. So I don't want to presume you still want to help us out. But he said, just, what do you guys need? And so he made a commitment over the phone right then. Before I'd even really said yes to the building, he said, "I'll give you guys $300,000.
Wow. So there's a big swipe, $300K against maybe a potential $500,000 need. That's giant.
Yeah. It was like, crap. I think this is what God's doing. So
what are you going to say now? What are you going to say to Dad now? Hey, Dad, I don't want to do this.
Seriously. Yeah. It's not enough.
Wow.
So then I was speaking at a men's retreat a few weeks later, a bunch of guys I don't know down in East Bay, Silicon Valley guys. And those guys heard the story of what we were thinking of doing during the retreat. And a bunch of those guys, seven of those guys literally threw in $150,000. And they didn't know me at all. They, so all of a sudden I had 450 or fitty, as we say.
Yeah.
So then the mayor and the city said, we will help you. So they threw in about, just about 60, maybe 75,000.
Wow. That's a lot for a municipality,
So,
especially a broke one. Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep. So we were able to. I basically took 12 months and just worked, 16 hours a day, putting this building back together. So we opened up a year and a half ago. So I worked on it a year.
I
We
remember.
opened up in January of 17, 18, whatever that was. And it literally took the town, I wouldn't want to say by storm, but we were the only thing that people were talking about for that first couple months. And
Nothing's happened, right? Talk about a picture of good news and redemption and restoration. And I mean, it's just good news all over it. Oh, man.
it was. So and we can talk about this more, but I, what I've done, I've mostly been training church planters. People are starting new church experiences all over the world. And I tell them now there's nothing that you could do that would make it easier to gospel a city than to actually do what the city needs done.
Yeah.
So instead of just planting a church, plant a business,
Instead of planting a church service, what do they need? They don't need another church service. Trust me. Look in the phone book,
Yep.
So now this place is called The Post. And what does it function like every day? What's happening today? What's going on every day, every morning, every day?
So from 7 to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, we are an all-day brunch cafe, high-end coffee shop,
Mm.
and then really, I think we're the premier event center in town now. So we do a lot of next 7 weeks. We have pretty high-end weddings going on the weekend.
Do
So
you make a little cash for that? I
those-
mean, you're charging us something that's like helps, but it's profitable for you guys to help pay the bills. And
yeah, the coffee and the food, as just barely covers employees and keeps the building alive. But yeah, the events are probably where we make most of our profit.
I'm just curious because I know people listening will be going like, okay, so not everybody's going to find $500,000 to renovate something cool, but God moves in crazy ways. But then you still got to keep the lights on. So I'm just asking. My business background, I have to.
Yep. So that's basically the plan. We're going to start a roastery here in hopefully about 6 months. There'll be another business that will begin to kick off out of there that we think will do pretty well.
How much square footage are you not using in that building yet? Or have you already kind of like figured out all the corners and you're using it?
No, we're using probably 9,000 of 12,000 square feet, but we're about to open up the basement as kind of a shared office, business incubator space, and let people
Oh, cool.
get down there.
And what about resurrecting the idea of like a micro distillery? Maybe that should be at the Post.
Well, Caesar, you know me. I still wake up. I think it could potentially be there. We've got the room for it, but as it's $250,000 to start a distillery. So
Yeah, another half. No,
when,
yeah.
yeah, when I get an extra $250,000, then we might make a play at that.
Oh, I just happen to have it sitting on my desk and I didn't know what to do
Yeah.
with it today. So it's done and done. I'll send that right on over.
Thank you.
I have to go here. So now the Post is up and running, and it's clearly good news. And I've not been there yet, which I apologize for. But I want to post a link of some pictures, so because people are going to be listening to this, going like, "What's it look like?" So maybe you can help me out with a link to like some sort of before and after pictures if you got them stashed somewhere.
Totally.
But people are going to want to see it. But I've seen the pictures, and so I can kind of get it. It's not that unlike Shaka in a sense. It's just kind of hipster reclaimed coolness. And but real open. I love it. I love the tall ceilings and all that. But now that this thing's running for a bit, how's it led to opportunities for the gospel and additional community and community involvement for you and and the team and the family and all that? Like the good news going out and the reputation of being good newsers. I know it's not just like goods and services. So what's it leading to?
So we have, a little missionary community, about 30 people that meet every other Sunday night. And we call that the side door gathering. We don't want
Staff and friends of staff and kind of like your oikos. Yeah.
Yeah, people literally have asked us why we're doing this. So some people have given up on church. Some had never been in church, but are moving, towards the gospel. And so we provide just a normal time. We eat together, and then we talk about the Lord and do stuff every once in a while, a little worship or something. Monday nights, last 2 Mondays of every month, I do a journeyman. What you and I used to do for pastors, I just do it for local dudes. And so we just do that kind of around the whiskey bar. And That's about, 25 dudes right now. Half of them are from, African American side of town, half are from the white side. And
Where do you
so
do
it's
that? You
been,
do it at the post or you do it at your house?
yeah, we do that one at the post. And,
Okay.
and then,
Big living room. It's a big living room. Yeah.
Totally. Our CrossFit gym has just asked me to do church for them on Sunday morning, which essentially church is, we sit around a mat and we just talk about Jesus. I walk through the book of John. And, a lot of those people helped us with the building. So they're all integrated in the life of the post. And so we have basically 3 little missional community type expressions all around. It's just a small handful of people, but,
Yeah.
it's going better than any church plant I had ever been a part of. And then what we do out of there is we try to start other little micro communities. McKenna, McKenna, she's going to start a yoga class out of the building. We've got a big back banquet room that.
McKenna's your youngest daughter, for those who are listening. She's also married now, but she's your youngest. Beautiful.
So she's going to start our 4th community called Common Yoga, which will be a donation-based yoga, so poor folk can access that.
I had remember years ago I had this guy teaching me yoga, and he was like a pretty expensive trainer, but I wanted to learn some stuff, and I loved him. And he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll teach you yoga if you'll teach me about Jesus." And we'd get together and we'd cross our legs in ways that were painful to me and not to him, and have a candle between us, and then he would tell me how to breathe, and I would tell him about Jesus. It was awesome for a long time.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask about the yoga thing because it's not traditionally, a Christian thing. A lot of people think it's demonic, but my daughter's a missionary. She's learned that you don't do Christian things to non-Christian people. That's not what works. She is creating a space where she can just build relationship. And so the yoga, even the other people that want to help her lead that they're not believers. And she's like, let's do this together and let's trust that Jesus wins along the way, so.
Now, I hope that not only are regular, folks listening to this today getting, wow, encouraged by what they can do and be. And they're like, some people are thinking like, oh, I'm not Hugh Halter. I can never find that kind of money. It's really not about the money. What I want everybody to hear is I want them to hear all the things that have sprung out of just being there and being good news that cost nothing. So the side door, doing journeyman with a bunch of guys, starting a yoga class, going and holding, quote, church with a black box, for CrossFit and all. None of that is what costs anything. So the other thing was someone gifted you with a big asset, and then God said, here's the assets to finish it. But everything else you're saying, anybody could do this and these types of things. And these are all things that you like to do anyway. It's not like I hate working out or I hate doing yoga or I hate hanging out with guys and having a scotch and talking about Jesus. Like, no, that's what I want to do anyway. I hope they're hearing that. And I hope they're hearing that. And I hope that pastors and church planners are hearing, like, maybe there's like, can we flip the model instead of starting a church service in a city that's got 1 million, somehow thinking that we're going to be the one who, our screens and our sound system will just be what finally tips them over the edge into eternity or something. Could we figure out how to be good news and build relational bonds and groups and activities that are good news that everybody gets to participate in as a way of discipling them to Christ? And so they're seeing, tasting, experiencing, participating in the good news. Really reminds me of the discipleship environment of Jesus, where he was like, everything was kind of happening in real time. And then the lessons flowed from that. And everybody was participating, even when they didn't believe yet, which I think, I have this picture of the disciples. They were just like sitting at Jesus, feet with their knees bended, like eyes to the sky, like, you're the best, but that's not the story. These knuckleheads were fighting constantly. Their mommy is like jockeying for better positions. And then it says in Matthew 28, when he's ascended to heaven, they're watching, and some of them are elbowing each other like, I don't believe it still. I don't know who he says he was. He says they still did not believe, some of them. So it's like, yeah, this sounds really like good news to me, brother. What's the future hold for Hugh Halter and the Halter clan, do you think, in the months and years ahead? Do you have any ideas? God giving you any like window as to like, okay, in 2 years, this is what's going to happen, and in 5 years, I'm releasing you, or anything? I mean, what do you think's happening next?
Well, funny story. So same guy that gave me the building, he decided that the rest of his life he's going to commit to rebuilding our town. So he's making a personal commitment of putting $75 million into our downtown core over the next
$75 million into your town.
Yep. So
he's got a lot of
literally
money.
it will change. And he's a believer. We've had a lot of talk about the kingdom and about where the righteous prosper, the city will rejoice. And so he's formed a team of amazing people, from developers to marketers, and he asked me to jump in with their team to kind of help with. I get to have a seat at a table of a redevelopment of a city, and I think part of my job is just to think about the things that we're doing downtown and how it might affect the poor and the racial issues in our town. And
Oh my goodness.
so, see, I'm just like you. I got 2 grandkids. I've been asked to help change a whole city, and I get to be a part of it with the Post, and I get to be a part of it. So literally, I don't want to leave anymore. I enjoy
for
getting
you.
on planes and consulting other people, but I'm learning that the best way to influence the world is live a really great story
Yeah.
right where you live. And I don't know if I could have ever architected that this would have happened to our family, or that we would be able to be in a place of influence like this. And so I'm just going to live it, bro. I think we're stuck here. Grandkids are popping out.
Hey,
I
listen, you
think
don't know this yet.
we're
I'm trying to stay ahead of you. My daughter Kristen is now pregnant with what will, Lord willing, be our third. So yeah,
nice. Congrats,
pretty
bro.
stoked. Yep. January. Gonna add another quiver to the Team K bucket of arrows. Yeah.
I love Team K.
Oh
I
man,
love Team K.
we're going nuts. I know. So, well, man, this is so encouraging to me, and it makes me really miss you even more. Like you're trying to act like this is all behind us. Like, I guess what you're saying is, if I want to move to Alton and stand in your shadow, I could. I could do.
It would be a wonderful thing to have some partners in this town for sure. We have a great little core of younger leaders, but yeah, we are desperate for kind of us old people, empty nesters.
I think unless Team K comes along, God's probably got us here too. I don't know. I used to look at people like, oh, you're so into your family. Like, what about mission? And I'm like, my family's my mission, right? They're part of it. Come on, right? I get to love this. Don't I get to enjoy this? Yeah, of course you do, and we're all growing up, but
It is funny how you change. Remember how neither of us were like into buildings?
yeah.
For 20 years, we told people, don't get a building. And then God gives me a building. So,
Oh yeah. Well, it's like,
I guess
it's like when I became a church planter of communities before there was church services, when I used to be in charge of production at a mega. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So yeah, isn't it amazing though, that God continues to like flip the switch in backwards ways and flip us upside down in our families. Praise God for Cheryl and both your gals and their husbands, that they're like, God also blessed them with the vision. Like, let's be here. Let's be a family that makes a huge difference. And that also speaks so much, Hugh, to what we tell everybody. Like, before you worry about trying to organize a church, before you start to try to organize a missional community out there and throw a lasso around a bunch of other people, let's be a family worth imitating. Let's be a family worth joining. Like, people want to be near the Halters. I know they do. I do. I miss you guys. Your daughters are a blast. They've always been. Even when they were little and in high school, boom, they were my pals when I'd stay at the house. That's who you guys are. You're a family worth imitating, and you're a family worth joining. Like, how do I wedge my way into, Halter clan here? What's going on? And you guys live that. So that's not something you have to put on anymore. Now you're adding, babies to the pile, which is beautiful. But I want people to hear that too. I want them to hear, like, be a family on mission, not with a project out there. Like, live this life. And God is just waiting. Like, some of the people we're coaching right now, Hugh, they get a month, 6 weeks, 2 months into this, like starting to finally have some intentionality and open up their table and be good news to people and over tip a little bit and buy around. And they're like, all of a sudden they got all these friends and all this stuff coming out of the woodwork and favor, right? And good news showing up in their life. And I'm like, that was all there before. Dad's just waiting for us to open up and say yes, right? So, man, it's awesome to talk to you, man. Thank you so much for carving out this time today.
Man. You too. Happy to do it.
Any last parting words you want to tell our folks? Like, I just kind of preached there at the end of your story, but what would you tell people who are hearing this going, man, I wish that was our story. I wish something like that would happen.
So, see, what I was thinking, as we were talking, was how cool it is that you've transitioned into really trying to provide a place where people can learn how to live like this.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not rocket science. You and I both know
it really
it's not rocket science, but you need somebody at times going, hey, let's throw a party, and here's how you do it, and here's how it moves people. And so I just hope you keep doing what you're doing, and people take a lot of, literally the little communities that you set up. I hope people take it seriously and realize that Jesus made the gospel the easiest thing in the world to do. We just got to do some good news and be some good news. And so hopefully that encourages folks.
What a life we get to live. It's amazing, man. You can't take any of it with you. You're not taking the post to heaven with you, right? So,
Nope.
No. But there's a little bit of heaven down
So
here at the post. Thank God for that. Well, listen, please say hi to Cheryl and the gals. And I promise you I'm going to get to Alton and smell those little baby heads as soon as I possibly can.
Yep.
And we'll stay in touch. But thanks again for being on. And I'll bet people are going to be like crazy just to hear your story today. So thanks, brother.
Awesome. We'll see you.
Hugh is such an interesting dude. I remember the first time I was introduced to him back at a conference that you and Vanderstelt and him did in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama.
GCM.
Yeah, GCM. Yeah. And I was like, this guy, there's something ballsy about
the
him.
one where he just made fun of me the whole time.
Yeah, he did. Like,
his yoga stories about me sweating,
but he could also kick your butt if he wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
So
He's a manly man for sure.
But I just love that his heart is wired to do things differently, to go out, to innovate, to try new things, to take risks.
It's like he has to. Like I've known him long enough to know now he truly is an apostle. Like he's got an apostle's heart. For him to sit on the same thing for too long, he just grows restless, and he's not going to be the biggest blessing. Like everybody's got their role.
Sure.
Shepherds, pastors. And even though he's a super nice guy and you think, oh, he's got a shepherd's heart, he's an apostle through and through, an evangelist too. Like he can just talk to people about God and Jesus in ways that they've never even thought of or heard. And they're immediately, it's salty, they're interested. But he is a great guy. And so, we said it before on the show. If you want to find people of peace, be a person of peace.
Yeah.
The Halters live that way.
That's so cool, man.
And so they're like a magnet. People are just drawn to them, and they really love Jesus, and so that's what they talk about a lot. But not in weird ways. So
if you're ever in Alton, Illinois,
go
by.
see the post.
Yeah, go see Hugh.
Drop in, and you might see him, you might not, but you'll get a good cup of coffee.
Hey, let's get to the big three for this week.
Yeah, I got some takeaways for sure.
If you want the free downloadable PDF of the big three, we give it to you by going to everydaydisciple.com/big3. You'll get it right away.
BIG, the number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the three things that, if nothing else, we want you to walk away with from this episode. So if we were to like still it down, what you'd walk away with. Caesar, what are your big three?
So yeah, and just coming out of that conversation, I was like, here's my 3 takeaways. I had to distill it to 3. So first one I'd say of the big 3, sometimes God leads us to places and in ways that may surprise us.
You're right.
And Hugh and his wife Cheryl were living in Denver on a ranch, and I'd been there many times and loved it. And they had just finished remodeling, that thing for ministry that they believed God had called them to.
Yep.
And then God spoke again. And, they're like, maybe we should go here. So I'm asking people, like, don't miss this. Have you ever wondered if you've heard God's voice and calling clearly, and then he's asked you to do something else? Could God be using one season of life and a set of circumstances that you're experiencing now to prepare you and your family for what he's got next?
That's a great question.
Because sometimes we think like, well, this is what God called us to, so now we're going to die here, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, sometimes it's this and it's a season. And I often wonder, like, why is the church in Ephesus that Paul planted still not there?
Yeah, things move.
Things move, things change.
Yeah.
God is mysterious, and probably a lot of people hearing this are going, ooh, I got to pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Second of the big 3, God always provides for the things he calls us to do. Like, boy, that was super evident in his story, right?
Absolutely.
So often we don't follow God's leading or call because we feel like we need to see every step clearly before we even start out. And we think we need to understand and see all the ways he plans to provide for what he's calling us to do before we would take that first trusting step of obedience.
Right.
Our good and great Father knows the future he has for us. And he's proven throughout history, all of Scripture, throughout history, and our own lives, just look at your own life, look back, that he's fully able and desires to provide for everything he calls us to. He's never going to call you to something and then you're like out there, like, oh, now what?
Yep.
You can trust him.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely.
So third thing, question, what areas of your life and ministry may God be trying to get your attention in and make some changes? All the gospel influence and expansion that we just heard about Hugh and his family experiencing now in Alton would not have happened if they had stayed comfortably, for ministry on the ranch in Colorado.
Sure.
Now, God would still love them the same, even if they, missed it or said, are you kidding? We just got the ranch, or whatever.
Right.
But what a missed opportunity it would have been.
Yeah.
So what could you do tomorrow, or what would you do tomorrow if time, money, and other people's opinion of you were not an issue?
Man, that is such a good question.
A great adventure may be waiting for you, right? If you just say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can say yes to God with great confidence every time. This is Hugh's story today. I'm not going to get into it, but you know my story. I mean, Tina, God has moved Tina and I through so many different things where it's like, that makes no sense. And you're like, it's the best thing ever, But I had to let go of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It always, I I love the fact that you're saying that he always provides too. Like, he's not going to leave us out to hang for dead, you know? Like,
And like we just heard, Hugh was trying his best to not accept some of these things.
yeah, exactly.
So.
All right, thanks for the big three. Again, if you want to get those big three, you can get them for free by going to everydaydisciple.com/big three right now. We're done with this episode, but we'd like to thank you for joining us. If you haven't yet joined the Facebook group, great time to do it.
Get over there, find us, look it up.
Look up Everyday Disciple Podcast. Next week is going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be really fun and fascinating.
It's super fascinating.
Yeah. You showed me this video a while back, and I was like, hey, we got to do a podcast
Got to talk about this. You're going to love it.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this show and to get loads of free discipleship resources, visit everydaydisciple.com. And remember, you really can live with the spiritual freedom and relational peace that Jesus promised every day.